Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Taste Bud Dojo with yours truly, Nate, D-O-G-G. On this episode, we are going to be using this contraption, a cast iron skillet. We will be making a beautifully crusted sirloin steak meal for under $10. So let's sear the steer, let's gain this grain, let's get that bread. All right, guys, we are in the first phase, which is our prep phase. So what do we got to do? Biggest thing that we want to do is with our beautiful sirloin steak. You can see that right there. It's looking good. Now, the thing about a sirloin steak, guys, is we want to make sure that we set it out to room temperature, whatever steak you're cooking, for about 30 minutes to an hour. I recommend go a little bit on the longer side, maybe 45 minutes, because the main thing that this is going to do to your steak when you cook it is it's going to make sure that it's room temperature. So when you go ahead and you put it on the cast iron, it's going to cook evenly, and your times are going to be correctly with how long you want to cook it. All that just to say is it's going to help with the process to get it to the right temperature you like to cook. Personally, I like medium rare, so that's what we're rocking with. Second thing, guys, is we're going to be making this with the side of asparagus. So there's not much to do with this. All we got to do is wash it, cut it off. Cut off the stems, really, because you don't want to be eating that, in my personal opinion. And then also the second biggest thing, guys, is also our seasoning choices. Question is, are you on that Lowry's? Are you on that Morton's? Let me know. And then the third thing we're going to be making, guys, is we're going to be making that side of garlic bread. This is probably my favorite thing to eat is the garlic bread. So what we're going to do is we're just going to literally cut this up, butter it up, and we're going to be rocking with it. So that's all we got to do, guys, for the prep phase. So let's get into it. We're going to go ahead. We're going to be washing the asparagus because we got to keep it clean. We got to keep it mean. And you know what? We got to make sure we're eating those greens. So we need this. Now that's a knife. Boom. Real easy. Boom. Asparagus, ready. Steak. With the steak, guys, we want to make sure we heavenly season. This is really important for the crust. Probably one of the most important things. And there's probably a couple other more important things I'll shout out, but this is extremely important with the steak is we want to heavenly season this. And really, it's very easy, guys. There's whatever seasonings you like. I'm going to be using pink Himalayan salt. I'm going to be using some Walmart cracked pepper. And then I'm also going to be using the Morton seasonal. Personally, I like the seasonal a little bit better than the Lowry's seasoned salt. Personal preference. Let me know what you think. Cayenne pepper, guys. We're going to use this lightly, but we want to go ahead right here. Boom. We're using that salt. And I want to make sure I get this on the whole top layer. And you might be thinking like, oh man, you got all this extra seasoning down and around, but I'm going to let you know why that's good. So we got a good amount of salt. We're going to hit it with that pepper. Don't be stingy. Don't be stingy. We want to hit it hard, and we want that crust. Seasonal. Boom. You're thinking, all right, it's already got salt in it, but you can never have too much salt. Boom. Hitting it there. Nice even layer. You can't really see any more red on the steak because I put a lot on there. And then I want to go ahead and I want to use a little bit of this cayenne. Not too much, but just a little bit to tickle the taste palate. You know what I mean? And then what I like to do is I like to go ahead and just boom. I just pat it down. So that's really kind of setting into the steak now. We're going to go ahead. We're going to flip. Same deal. We're going to go ahead and hit it with the salt. We're going to go ahead. We're going to hit it with the pepper. Hit it back with that seasonal. And then last but not least, hit it back with that cayenne pepper. Boom. Now we're going to go ahead and pat it down again, guys, so that seasoning sets in. Now this is one of the most important things. You see all that excess seasoning I got right there on there? We want to take our steak, and because you can see the edges, there's not really much seasoning on that, but you can see how thick of a layer I got on that. We want to roll the edges right on that seasoning. Same thing. You see this side? Not much on there? We want to roll that in that seasoning. We want to just lap it up. Now look at that. Now we got that nice crust on there. Boom. Whole steak is now covered in seasoning on the sides, and that's going to be really important later. But now you can see nothing left on there. So we used everything that we had. Now that the seasoning's on there, look how good that looks now. Now we want to go ahead and let that sit for 30 minutes, guys. And then the other thing we want to do, make sure we're washing our hands because you don't want no dirty crusties in your steak. You know what I'm saying? And then the next thing we got to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to rock with our bread, guys. But that's real easy. All we literally do is we're going to cut it in half, and we're going to go ahead and butter I like to use regular salted butter. You can't tell by now, I do enjoy salt in my food. It is good for you and your body does need it. So what we're gonna do, grab our bread knife, guys. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna cut it up. Boom. Right here, hands are washed, station is clean. Boom, we're literally just gonna cut it right in half. And you can use whatever bread you want. You can use French bread. I found the Cuban bread on sale for like $2, so that's why I rock with that. We want our room temp butter, guys. Boom. I'm probably gonna need a little bit more butter, but we'll just go ahead and butter it up. So I also have unsalted butter here, which I'll explain why later. Yeah, we're just going ahead and getting a nice layer of butter. You don't need a ton of butter, but you want to make sure that you evenly spread it all on the bread. Like you can see where I've buttered this up right here, but then this doesn't have any butter on it. So we want to make sure that we're spreading that butter, guys. We're spreading the love. That's what we'd like to say. Boom. Okay, we're spreading it up. Now we're going to need one more thing of seasoning. You didn't see nothing. And here's the thing, guys. The thing that's so fun about cooking is that you can make mistakes. Like, that's one of the biggest things. I talk to a lot of friends, and they're scared to cook. They're scared to really go for it or try new recipes because they don't really maybe know a certain, well, like technique, or they're scared to fail or burn something or add too much seasoning, add too little seasoning. That's what I love about cooking, is that you can make mistakes and you can still make something delicious. So it's really just about learning, right? So maybe you try this out and you try to cook this steak and you're like, oh man, I didn't add enough seasoning. Or maybe you go to cook it and then you cook it up a little too much, right? Maybe you're going for like a medium rare, and then you end up making it a medium or medium well. Guess what? It's like any skill, any sport. You have to practice, right? So that's a little tidbit right there. Make sure you just have fun. That's like one of the most important things. Have fun and actually just try it out because it's delicious, and food is meant to be enjoyed, not to cause you anxiety or stress you out. So now we got our fully buttered bread right there. We got to go ahead. We're adding that garlic salt, guys. If you see the P, you know what that means. Let's go ahead right here. Boom. Healthy layer right there. Boom. Prep phase is done. I'll see you in 30 minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now to that time we have been waiting for. I just put a little bit of oil into the pan, guys. It has now been 30 minutes, so our steak is looking nice and scrumptious. It is now room temperature. I got my oil nice and hot here. I just put it in right before I started filming, guys. So just so we can get it really nice and hot. You can see that it's starting to smoke a little bit. So this is where things are going to move really quickly. We're going to go ahead, we're going to put our steak down into the cast iron pan because this is the most important part in how we get that crust. So you want to lay the steak away from you because we got our oil nice and hot. You don't want anything splashing back on you because that never feels fun. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to lay that steak in right now. You're going to be able to hear that sizzle. We want to push down. We want to make sure our steak is nice and flat right here. That's going to allow for the perfect crust that we want and that we need, guys. So you can hear that sizzle going on. I just got this microphone, so I'm testing it out. It's supposed to cancel some of the noise out, so you might hear it, you might not hear it. We'll see what's up. We laid our steak down, so let's wash our hands super quick, guys. And the thing is we've got our asparagus prepped over there to the right, as you can see it. You see we got our bread ready, guys. This is a pretty simple one. So we've got it going. We're going to put it on there for about 2.5 minutes on each side. And then from there, I got a little trick that really kind of makes the steak delicious and well-rounded and kind of locks all the flavors in. So we've got that going here. We've also got our unsalted butter. I mentioned earlier in the video, this is really important. So unsalted butter actually has a higher burning temperature than our regular butter. So if you go ahead, and we're going to baste this steak with butter a little bit later once we flip it after that 2.5 minutes. But the big thing with that is when we put that butter in there, we don't want it to burn, we don't want it to brown. So I've had it about 5.5. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn the temperature down to about 4.5 now. So it's going to be getting that nice crust going now. But then when I put the butter in there, it's not going to burn because once we baste that, the butter's going to seep down into the steak. And as the butter's seeping down into the steak, it's actually going to help cook the steak. But if that butter's burnt, it's going to go ahead and it's going to have kind of like a burnt taste in your steak, and we don't want that. So it's looking good right now. Go ahead and just splash that oil around. Keep it touching the sides. And that's good. Let's go ahead and let's clean our station while we're doing that. Bada boom, bada bing. Okay. And the asparagus is one of my favorite sides. You can do this with like broccoli. You can do sweet potato. You can get a deep fryer out and do French fries. But I thought it'd be fun just to do the asparagus and the garlic bread. One of the cool things about this too, guys, I got 2 pack of steaks for $9.98. I got the asparagus, which was a pound for $2.99, and then I got the whole loaf of bread for, I think that was $2.98. So the total came out to basically around 15 bucks, and then I got 2 portions out of it, so it was $8.50 just to cook this whole meal. So it's kind of crazy. So this is a meal under $10 that you can cook at home by yourself. You've seen how easy it is so far. So I really encourage you to go just to your local store and find the steak that's on sale. It could be a sirloin, could be a strip steak, and then we always hope that the ribeyes are on sale. So you can already start to see right here that we're getting a nice little crust going on here on the bottom. You can see we're getting that brown. We're almost ready to go ahead and flip it right now. So we're going to go ahead and we want to keep the oil moving around the pan because I'm using a larger cast iron. So if you get a dry spot, we don't want that. We want to make sure that oil's staying around the pan and it's staying hot. So let's go ahead right here. We're going to go ahead and flip our steak. And that's the thing. Once we put the steak in, we don't want to move the steak. So let's go ahead. Let's get our flip going on. Move that around because that oil's nice and hot. Boom. You hear that right there? I moved it a little to the left of the pan because that part of the pan is real hot. So go ahead, we'll push down. Steak is going. Let's go ahead, let's add in our butter. This is the unsalted butter, guys, because we want to start basting right now. So I used about 1/4 of a stick of butter right here. Temperature's still a little bit hot, but that's okay, guys. So we'll go ahead, we'll start moving it around. Here, check this out right now. You can see that nice crust we got on top of the steak right now. It's looking really good. So now this is the part where we want to just go ahead and let it sit. We don't want to move it. That butter's melted. It's a nice golden color. Now we just want to start basting that onto the steak. So I'm really just propping it up a little bit, right? So that all the butter's dripping down to the bottom, but the heat of the pan is still cooking the steak. And now I'm just going ahead and basting right here. So now that's going ahead, that's seeping into the steak. It's cooking the steak, guys, and we're getting a nice buttery flavor in our steak. And there we go. We'll just baste for a second. Now we'll just let it sit, okay? So we're letting that sit. And then what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to go ahead, and once this is done cooking, you want to let this rest for about 5 to 7 minutes. You don't want your steak to get cold, but once we take it off, the heat is still going to be in the steak. So that's helping it cook up to the temperature that we want it. And we're going for a medium rare here. But I don't have my timer because this is like one of the first videos I'm making. So I normally use my phone, but I'm using my phone to record. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. So I think we're about ready just based on looking at it. We're still letting that crust go. Let's go ahead and let's baste it one more time. Yeah, this is looking good. So we've done about 2.5 minutes on each side. The first time we laid it down was about 3 minutes, but I think we're about 2.5 minutes on this side right here. So what we're gonna do now, guys, is we don't wanna use spatula, we wanna use tongs because we don't wanna scrape any of that seasoning off. So this is the most important part of why we season the sides of the steak, guys. We wanna take our steak, and you can see right here, you can see that side doesn't have crust on it where this has a crust on it. So that's important. What we want to do here is we want to take it, we want to push it down, and now we just want to roll it around the pan. What this is doing is that's searing that part of the steak, and it's locking in all the flavors and the juices of the steak that we want, while it's still getting some of that buttery goodness. Now you can see here that it's got that sear on it versus like this side with no sear. So now we want to do the same thing. We just want to roll it, guys. We literally just want to roll the steak around, searing those sides real quick because we don't want to cook our steak up too much. All the sides are looking good. Boom. So So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna set our steak down. I've got a microwave right next to me, guys. I just put it inside there so it doesn't lose heat, but it just stays there and helps that cook up right to where we want it. Now that we've got our oil and butter in here, guys, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take this and we're just gonna put it right in. Boom. Right in there. Now, it depends on how you like your asparagus, but I like my asparagus well done. I like it to where the tips of the asparagus are crispy and crunchy, and I don't like to have like chewy asparagus, so. What we're gonna do is we just rolled around in that butter, so that's gonna help it cook. You can hear that nice sizzle going on. And guys, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna season this now. So I like to hit it with salt. You already know we're hitting it with that pepper. I like a lot of pepper, guys. The pepper's really good. Pepper's good for you too. It helps clear your sinuses and other things like that. And don't forget, guys, just because I don't like Lowry's on my steak doesn't mean I like it on my veggies. So for all you Lowry fans out there, go ahead and hit it with a good season. Boom. All right, asparagus is getting nice and cooked right now, so we're gonna leave that here. Now the only other thing we have is our garlic bread right here, which it's already been buttered. It's already been hit with our garlic salt, which we saw. And we've got our broiler on in the oven on high. So we wanna make sure that's the last thing that we do because that's gonna take about 30 seconds to a minute to do. So we're gonna roll our asparagus around in here. This will take about 7 minutes to cook. So remember, we just took our steak off. That's resting right now. We've got our asparagus cooking. As soon as our asparagus is done cooking, we're gonna plate that. So that means our steak's ready, our asparagus is ready, and then we're gonna throw in this bread. And you wanna keep an eye on that the whole time. You don't wanna walk away from that because if you forget, you can burn it real easy, and that's what we don't want to happen. So let's go ahead and let's roll our asparagus around. Yeah, that looks good. And you can still see it's real vibrant and green right now. That's how we know it's not ready to take off the pan. But what did we just do? We seasoned the top layer of the asparagus, right? And now we're rolling it around. We're losing some of that seasoning. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to season it one more time. We hit it with the salt. We hit it with that pea. And that's almost everything we need right there. Boom. All right, let's hit it again with that Lowry's. Bada boom, bada bing. And now that's good. We've got that fresh layer of seasoning right there. So we're not going to season it anymore until it's done cooking. Once it's done cooking, we're going to plate it. We're going to hit it with a light layer of salt, light layer of pepper. No more seasoned salt because we don't want to add too much flavor of that there. But this is one thing that Gordon Ramsay talks about all the time. If you watch a lot of his videos, he seasons throughout every step of the process. And that's something that I picked up from him, you know, because I've got no culinary background, no culinary training, you know, normally just from cooking in the kitchen with Pops growing up. So that's something that's really important that I've noticed a huge enhancement in when I'm cooking dishes by seasoning throughout different processes. So that's something that's really important, guys, and that's just like a little tip that maybe you'll use like from when you guys start cooking at home. So all right, so you can see now, guys, I'll show you. We're not there yet, but we're getting close. We're starting to get a nice glaze on there from that butter. We're still a little too vibrant on the green, right? Because we want that to be nice and cooked, but we're starting to get that good crust on there that we want. So we're looking good there. Boom. But now, my other top side is French fries. I've got a deep fryer too, so maybe I can make some videos on the wings because I like to make wings. And that's pretty fun too, and that's easy to do because then you can make desserts with it, you can make fries, but that's not the healthiest thing, you know. So we want to make sure we're trying to do that maybe once a week, but then we're also eating healthy throughout the week. And I know we've used a lot of butter in this, but you know, hey, we're using also like with the oil that we use for the pan, you can use any oil. You just want something with a high burning temperature on it. And this is just traditional, I think, olive oil. This is not extra virgin olive oil. I ended up running out of that, and that's a little bit expensive. So let me just double check. I think it's just vegetable oil. So Yeah, just a classic vegetable oil, guys. I be balling on a budget, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of the way to do it, guys. You can cook really great food, great recipes, guys, that's not really expensive. You know, you don't have to have all this fancy equipment, and that's kind of the hope of this channel, is to show you that, you know, you can just have fun cooking. You can just go for it with not a lot of experience, you know, and you can do it that's also not very expensive. So I think that's the cool thing that I want to try to just get across and show that, hey, cooking's a blast, food's delicious, and, you know, it's a way to really bring people together. So that's what I like to do, is cook a lot of recipes that can feed a lot of people, you know. So that's where we're at right now, guys. Asparagus has probably got 1 or 2 more minutes on it, but we're almost done. It looks great, and I'm pretty excited. I'm excited to cut into steak and see how that temperature turned out without my clock, but I just, you know, I'm looking at my camera too, and it's got a timer on there, so we'll see what that says. But it was about 2.5 minutes each side, maybe a little bit longer than that because we rolled it around. So that's something we just want to keep an eye on. But like I said, I'm not going for a perfect, you know, 5-star Michelin medium rare. I'm just, you know, I'm hungry and I'm cooking a steak, but you know, we're trying to shoot for that goal of medium rare because that's what I like. So, all right, asparagus is now done. How do I know it's done? Check it out. It looks great, right? We've got a good sear on all the sides. It's seasoned well. You can tell those bits are gonna be crunchy. Let's go ahead. Let's take our garlic bread now, throw it in the oven on high. Boom. That's in there now. Like I said, don't take your eye off of that. So now we've got our steak that's been resting. You can see those juices that are coming out now. That's great. Now what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and plate up my asparagus. Boom. Right on there. This is another good reason to use tongs, guys, is for the asparagus. You know, if you're using other veggies or something like that, you know, boom, that looks good. Let's go ahead, let's set our plate down, and let's take an eye and let's check out this garlic bread. Oh, yeah. All right, so that's cooking right now, and yeah, it's melting that butter. With that garlic salt, that's like one of my top things. And maybe you didn't go to the store and you don't have like a Cuban bread or a French bread. Maybe you just got like classic white bread in the pantry. It works great with that too. Or honey wheat bread, whatever you have. You just go ahead and you put that butter on there, add a little bit of that garlic salt, and then just throw it in. You just throw it in on high, and that's, I'm telling you guys, you just cut that in half. It's delicious. It's a great side, and it's really like low budget too, so. All right, this is looking good. This is looking good. It's not ready yet. And it's also like your preference. What do you guys like? Do you like your food a little bit more well done? Like for me, I like my garlic bread a little bit crispy, so I'm gonna leave it in there, but maybe you're like, oh man, he burnt the bread, but like that's just how I like it. That's the cool thing about cooking is you can make your food how you like it. So if you're watching this video, like make it the way that you like it. Leave it in a little bit less if you don't like it as crunchy, or leave it in a little more if you like it even crispier. Same thing with the steak, just all you have to do is just cook it longer. It's the same steps, same process, but just a little bit longer if you like it more cooked. Okay, it's looking good, guys. So right now we've got the edges that are getting a little crispy, the butter's melting. I'd say we're about ready to rock and roll here. So let's go ahead, boom, take it out. That was like what, maybe a minute? So look at that. So the edges are a little crispy. A way around that is to butter that, but I didn't butter that, so that's why that got a little more burnt. But this is ready to go, guys. Let me go ahead, let's plate it up. I'll catch you at the table. All right, guys. I'm pretty excited for this. So we've got our asparagus right here with our steak. I'm pretty excited about this, guys. We've also got our shareable garlic bread, which this is a party of one, so I will be eating all of that myself. So let's go ahead, let's cut into this steak, and let's see how it turned out. So you can hear that already. It's got a good crust on it, right? Which is the whole thing that we were going for here. So let's go ahead, we're cutting it in half. Okay, so I'm pretty excited with the way this turned out, guys. Let's go ahead, let me show you here. So boom, that's like right where we're looking for, guys. That's like right what we wanted it at. And the cool thing about that, guys, is like I said, I didn't know the exact times on it, but the more you start to cook, the more you're gonna start to realize that, hey, that's exactly what we're looking for. We let it rest up the right way. I'll let you check it out one more time, guys. Boom. It's like that perfect medium rare what we were looking for. And let's go ahead, let's jump into it. Let's take a bite, right? Because isn't that the whole reason we just cooked this? Oh yeah. So the first thing that you get is that salt from that crust, right? And it's not overbearing. Like you might think that, oh man, that's gonna be way too salty. As soon as you bite into it, it's just delicious because remember, it's just a top layer of crust right here. But all this steak doesn't have any seasoning on it right in here. So really that's just, it's an even amount of seasoning per bite that you're taking. And with that rolling technique, it just makes it great. So like every bite's consistent and delicious. All right, so let's just jump into the asparagus. Yeah, so the same thing with the seasoning, guys. That's really what makes it. Asparagus is cooked great. Like that's how I recommend cooking it, with that salt and pepper and the seasoned salt and the butter and the oil. And it makes it so it's just really delicious. And another really good thing that you can do with this, which maybe I'll do in another video, is there's a technique where you put brown sugar on it, and the brown sugar melts in the cast iron pan and it caramelizes. And what that does is it puts this like fire crust on it, which is amazing. It's like this glaze, and it really tastes like candy. And you can do that with like green beans. You can really do with that with whatever you want. So I know I took a bite of the video, but I just want to give thanks right now, guys, because we just had Thanksgiving. Christmas is coming up. It's December right now. I believe it's the 4th. So Lord, I just thank you for blessing me with this meal, Lord, this equipment to make this video. And hopefully, Lord, that this just causes joy in other people's lives and helps people get over their fear of cooking, Lord, and can just enjoy that and express themselves. And I ask you to bless this food to my body in Jesus' name. Amen. Awesome, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to crush this food. Best part every time. Consistent. Guys, I hope you got a lot of this video. Let me know if there's any other things you'd like to see me cook. I'll go ahead and I'll drop a video. So have a blessed day, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.